Hey y'all, this is Mitch Mitchell of either I'm Just Sharing or TT Mitchell Consulting or whatever you want to call. Today got a special treat. It's probably going to be more special for me than for you, but hope it's special for you as well. This is my good friend Chuck Price. This was my first friend, as a matter of fact, in Liverpool, New York. This is where I live now, and then he had to go off and leave. And we've known each other for 40 years. And I mean, that's even frightening because I hate thinking that I'm over 40. so first, Chuck, say hi to everyone.
No doubt about it.
And so we're going to talk a lot about SEO today and other stuff, but I want to do a quick genesis because y'all know this is how I do the interviews. And I've got to figure out how he got there. And I've known him a long time, so I'm not going to get into any of that embarrassing stuff, except for the one time he drove his car into the sand in some beach. We needed a whole bunch of people to pick us up.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing it was a light car. That was a 1956 MGA, and you get a bunch of high school kids surrounding that. They can lift it.
Yep.
Which is exactly what we needed, and exactly how we got that car out of the sand.
Oh, that was funny. That was funny.
Well, I don't know if it was funny, but it was great that no harm, no foul.
Definitely, definitely. So let's go back further. You actually started really in wood. I mean, tell folks, you really started there. You actually went to a university to learn about, when I'm saying wood, you'll say lumber.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I worked for a lumber yard. It was called Wick's Lumber. They're not around anymore, but at the time I was working in high school at the lumber yard. My dad happened to work for the company, so that worked out pretty well. When I was getting ready for college, I was able to score a scholarship, which Wick's underwrote everything: room, board, tuition, books, and fees. So I had my college education paid for by Wick's. And so there weren't any strings attached, but I certainly felt that I owed them some time to, get into things and get rolling. So I learned the business a little bit further. I worked in just outside of Philadelphia in a couple of locations. I transferred out to Ohio, which was a complete culture shock, moving from Philadelphia to rural Ohio. But I learned a lot while I was there, wanted to get out, and an opportunity came along in Albany, New York, where they had opened up a lumber yard in 1975, and this was 1983, and ever since they opened that thing up, it was losing money. So at the time, I was 24 years old, and this was going to be my first big assignment, and basically they figured, look, we'll take the kid, we'll put him in there, chances are nothing, you can't break it too badly. It's never made money for us. Long story short, in the first year, we took that from being on a list of lumber yards that was slated to close to number 8 in the company in terms of profitability. And from there, it went up to 4 to 2 to number 1 for 3 years. At which point, I was promoted to head up East Coast operations for the company, which was a $72 million division with 300 employees that spanned from just above New York City, Orange County, up to Bangor, Maine. And so, yeah, that was how my lumber career got started and progressed.
See, now that's pretty cool. I mean, so that automatically lets people know I don't hang with dumb people. This is a smart guy. He did well. Even if we had problems learning how to cook potatoes in a wok, we did well.
That's right. So selling a stick to a builder and cooking a potato is two different things.
Ain't that the truth? So then, after a while, you decided to start a business on your own, but you started out more as an entrepreneur than that because you started out buying houses, and yeah,
I mean, that was a natural fit being in the lumber business. So I live in a metropolitan urban area, and there are a number of older Rust Belt cities right around Albany. There's Watervliet, there's Cohoes, there's Waterford, even Albany itself. So I stayed out of Albany because there's just too damn many rules and regulations. And so the first house I bought was a 2-family house in Watervliet, and I lived in one half of the house, rehabbed the entire half, rented out the lower half. So essentially, I was able to rehab that and live rent-free because of the tenant. And from there, I ended up buying a couple more houses, and I think at the peak I had 4 houses, 1 single family I was living in, 3 two-family houses in Watervliet and Menands, New York. And so that was my first foray, I guess, into entrepreneurship and doing things like that, rehabbing houses, ultimately ending getting out of the residential rental business. It's a very, very difficult business. It's very difficult to find good tenants that don't rip the place up and do pay their rent on time every month. So when you hear, my heart goes out when I hear these people complaining about these slumlords. The reason that a lot of these guys are slumlords is because they don't have any money coming in, because the tenants aren't paying the rent, and it's very difficult to keep a house up to standard when the tenants aren't paying the bills. So there's 2 sides to every story, and yeah, slumlords. Yeah, I'm sure there are some lousy slumlords, but a lot of these people are hard-working people that are just trying to make a little bit of extra income and provide housing to people.
One of the things that I thought was wild, which put you way ahead of me, is the fact that I don't know how to do anything. You knew how to do all that stuff. So if someone needed to call you in the night because heat was off or anything, you could go there and do it. I mean, yeah. Not that you'd want to, but you always had those skills.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, and it's nice to be able to do that kind of stuff. Like, even at my own home, probably about 10 years ago on Thanksgiving Day, I had a burst pipe. So, I went out to the garage, and, I had the pipe, and I went out there, cut the bad section out, turned off the water, cut the bad section out, put a new piece of pipe in, day was saved. And for whatever reason, bad stuff happens to me on Thanksgiving Day. About 5 years ago on Thanksgiving Day, I was pulling the table apart to put the leaves in, and one of the sections of that holds the leaf, the section that extends out. When you pull it out, you know how it projects out?
Yeah.
Maybe yes, maybe no, but it does project out, and that rail broke. Well, another thing I like to do is woodworking, and part of my woodworking means if I find something along the side of the road that somebody's throwing away that's a good piece, I'll pick it up. I happen to drive a pickup truck too. So one day I found a table out alongside the road, picked up the table, I got it back home, broke the thing down. So that day when that rail broke, I was able to go out to my garage, get a replacement rail, install it on the table, and no problem.
Oh my goodness! And you got a garage big enough to do it. I can imagine. Well, one, I can imagine what people would think if they saw me having pipe laying in the garage, and then the broken table. People know I know nothing about any of that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean having the spare part for the table, that's dumb luck. I mean, it's great. I do have a lot of parts and stuff around, so usually if there's a problem, I've got a part, I can fix it. But that was just crazy that I had that part. Yeah, that was incredibly lucky. I'm a lucky guy.
You're a timely guy, because now this is going to be an interesting thing in the fact that you deal with computers now and systems and whatever, but you next went into Windows.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was into Windows before Bill Gates.
So talk a little bit about Windows.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things when you're working in any kind of a corporate environment is I was talking about luck, and you have to be lucky. I was lucky that I knew some people in Wix to get a job. I was lucky to get the scholarship. I was lucky to get have the opportunities that I had. And in order to do that, it's just like playing in Survivor. You need to surround yourself with with friends, with advocates, with I forget what they call it on Survivor, but basically people that will work with you, and you help one another. We had a group of guys, and we'd help each other out, and that's how we end up moving up through the ranks, and that all works fine and well until you end up with a new president in there, and he wants to bring in all his own lackeys. So that's what happened at Wix. They brought in a guy from GE. This guy was incredibly good at selling GE parts to other GE divisions. He came in from a division called GE Supply. and all they did, one computer talked to another one and sent light bulbs over. So I guess, for whatever reason, this guy was thought to be, a genius. They brought him in. He decimated the company, and ultimately that was the downfall. But before the company fell apart, I was handed my walking papers. So that was the first time I was ever fired from a job, and that was after working there for 19 years, just under 20 years, counting my time as a part-timer. So, yeah, I had a decision at that time. What am I going to do? I had just, I'd gotten married 3 years earlier. I had, I was ready. My wife was pregnant, so I really wasn't looking to leave the capital region, and I had the window thing in mind for a while anyways, manufacturing windows and doors. So I was able to go out, put together a dog and pony show, and get funding from the city of Albany. I got some funding from Key Bank. I got some funding, and when everything was said and done, I had enough money to buy machinery and equipment and get started in the window and door business. And that initially started out really well until we ended up bothering some big guys like Andersen Windows. We were taking away market share. Mm-hmm. So Andersen decided they didn't like that, and they came in and they started offering incredible deals to builders to get them back, builders that we had taken away from Andersen. So they'd come in, they'd offer really good pricing, they'd offer free advertising, they'd buy commercial time for these guys, they'd pay for their advertising. This is back when there were still newspaper ads, and so they made it very difficult for me to compete. So in the end, I got drove out of the window business. So like I was saying, I'm a lucky guy. I was lucky to have the opportunity, but along the way, I've had some knocks too. So that experience was a good experience in terms of learning how to put together the dog and pony, how to put together a manufacturing business, how to build a large company. We had about, it was large by the scale. For a single owner, 36 employees, and we had a lot of stuff going on, and so it was very difficult when Andersen came in and took their business back, and we were defeated at that point. But along the way, that's when I picked up the internet, because while I was in the window and door business, I was also in the skylight business. And I found, and so I got on, so again, backing up here, sorry to jump around, but this was back in the early 2000s. So I built a website, and there wasn't a lot of online e-commerce at the time, but one of the things I was promoting was skylights, because that's something that I could drop ship. So I started seeing skylight sales skyrocket all around the country, and there was literally no selling costs involved. This was drop ship, prepaid. I didn't have to pay the exorbitant amount of the insurance for a manufacturing business in New York is out of sight. So that was incredibly expensive. I didn't have any of those costs. The machinery and equipment cost was the equivalent of one 386XX PC at the time, which was probably about $1,500 at that time, but still significantly less than any of the other machinery equipment. And it became abundantly clear to me that the future was the internet. So I ended up winding down all the operations, shut down the plant, had to let go of all the employees, sold all the machinery and equipment, and ended up moving online.
And people might wonder why I'm starting with this, but I'm starting with this because I'm showing that you had that entrepreneurial spirit. And I like to highlight entrepreneurs and business people who get out there and take that shot. And that was around the time that I actually decided to go into business for myself as well. I wish I'd known about the skylights, because man, I need a skylight in this room badly. I've always wanted a skylight, but like I said, I certainly couldn't put it in. So, I may ask you for some advice on that later on.
There you go.
So now you left that and you started getting on the internet, but you were also part of a company called We Build Pages.
Yeah. When I was doing the drop shipping, I ended up extending beyond windows or skylights. And the first drop shipping that I really got into in earnest was back when inkjet cartridges sales on the internet. That was one of the big ones. And this was before HP and some of the others got really vigilant about protecting their patents. So I was able to source out inkjet cartridges from China. And there's some wholesalers here in the U.S. that would do some drop shipping, and so we had a bunch of that stuff going on. And I first started doing that using PPC. It was all pay-per-click, and these were nickel clicks on Overture. I mean, you could buy clicks for a nickel at the time, and so I could buy traffic and sell product and still make a profit. And then it got to the point where the pay-per-click got awfully expensive. And it was and the margins were getting really thin. So I decided that I had to learn how to get traffic organically instead of rely on pay-per-click. So I started doing a little research and figuring out who could do that. And I ran across a guy over in Troy, a guy by the name of Jim Boykin, and he had a company called We Build Pages. So initially, I went to hire Jim to get traffic for me at the Get Cheap Ink website, and so we went over. We had lunch together, and for whatever reason, that didn't all come. I thought we had a deal, but it didn't come together, and so, anyways, I hadn't forgotten about that. So then I saw Jim was looking for help, so I went over to his office and said, look, here's what I'm looking to do. I understand that there's a cost associated with training employees. I really want to learn how to get organic traffic. My intent of coming over here isn't just to get a job, but it's to learn organic search and to suck your brain and apply that for my own stuff. And as long as you're willing, as long as you're okay with that, and you're willing to train me, I understand there's a cost associated with training. How long would you need me to stick around for you to get your money back from training an employee? He said a year. I said, okay, I'll commit to a year. This was $12 an hour, so I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking to get rich, but I figured I was getting paid $12 an hour to get one hell of an education, which is exactly what it turned out to be. And so Jim is a very good SEO, and he's a very well-known SEO. And the one thing that Jim wasn't particularly good at was growing a business, and that was something that I was familiar with. So we took his brand, the Jim Boykin brand, which was worth a lot of money. And at the time, I think he was charging $100 an hour and $1,000 a month for clients. And right off the bat, I said, look, the Jim Boykin brand is worth more than that. We're gonna bump that to $250 an hour and a minimum of $2,500 a month. And at first, this was like, holy cow, how can we do that? But I also took over the sales function too. So it wasn't that difficult to transition. And again, not everybody who's watching this video is going to be able to just automatically off the rip do that. You need to have some sort of a brand, some sort of a reputation, which he did. He just didn't know how to leverage it at the time. So that's what we did, and we went out there and we were very good at getting people ranked #1 for keyword phrases, and people learned about us. They learned about Jim through the blogging that he was doing. They learned about us a lot of times through other clients that had had success. Long story short, we were able to take that from when I got there. We had 4 link builders, Jim, 2 designers, and an admin person. So it was, 8 or 9 people. We blew that up to 50 employees in about 2 years. So we were able to scale that right up between my sales and business development skills, his brand and SEO skills. And again, I got lucky finding Jim, who needed a guy with my skills. And Jim got lucky finding me because he could use those skills. So I needed his skills, he needed my skills, and it was a case of synergy where the two of us together got much farther than either one of us could have individually.
Wow. Now, during that time period, because actually that was the time period I heard about We Build Pages, and I saw your name on it. I said, what the devil? How'd he get into that? Because that was around the time that I was doing some things online. I said, how the devil did we both end up kind of doing some similar things like this? But you took it further in the fact that you were at the same time creating a whole bunch of websites. I remember on different topics and whatever. And I'm sure that you were doing some of that so you could test your skill, but obviously you were also looking to make money off of some of those things. I mean, how many websites did you end up buying?
Between websites and domains, I have over 150.
Oh my.
So I mean, some of those are domains waiting to be developed. I have some good premium domains I just haven't had the time to develop. When I first started buying websites and domains back in 2006, it was much easier to make money with AdSense than it is today. So out of those 160 websites, you could count on both hands the number that still have any kind of real value. Most of those websites I use for testing different concepts. So rather than risk a client site, or rather than risk one of my money sites, I'll take a website that's on the fringe that might be doing okay, but it's not doing particularly well, and that's where I can test some things.
Goodness, 150. Now, if my friend Brian is watching, and I'm not sure if he is or not, but this is one of the things he used to do, buy a whole bunch of domains. He's let a bunch go, but I'm sure he still has tons of domains, and one of these days, so he says, he's going to start putting something on those things and making a bunch of money. We'll find out. But
you know what? That was the way to do it at one time. If you're going to do a bunch of domains right now, you have to do it. The only way to make it work is kind of a black hat way. You build a private network. PBN, or private blog network, is popular. Again, this isn't something that we do for clients. Everything we do for clients is 100% white hat Google compliant. But I do know guys that are into the black hat stuff, and what they'll do is they'll build out these private blog networks, put content on it, interlink the network, and then link out to their money sites and leverage it that way. But in terms of having having 1,000 sites, each one making $1 a day or something, those days are over.
Good. I'm glad I never got into it, because it just seemed like it would be so much work. First in creating it all, and then second just trying to keep up with it. Oh, yeah, I remember reading those books too.
Yeah, I mean the way to do the way to do it today, if you want to make money online, have one website, invest all your resources in that website, or if you have people working for you, have one person assigned to a website, kind of give them ownership of that site, and that's how you do it.
So before I get into the new business, and I don't see any questions, so we're just going to plow through. Tell me how you got hooked up with writing articles for what's it, Search Engine Watch, I believe it is.
Yeah, Search Engine Watch is one of the top internet marketing blogs, and it actually you have to step it back another time when I got lucky, where a guy that I knew through going to conferences. So you go to conferences, you meet a lot of people. When I was at We Build Pages, I went to a lot of conferences, met a lot of people, including a guy named Avi Walensky, who runs a company in New York City called Pro Media Corp. So I follow Avi on Twitter, and they were looking for somebody to speak on link building at SES in San Francisco a few years ago. And I was trying to break into the speaking circuit at the time, too. So I got a hold of Avi right as soon as I saw that tweet and said, hey, I'd really be interested in taking that spot. If you can hook me up, I'd appreciate it. So he did. And so I got that spot. And I was able to parlay that into, hey, you know what? I speak on, I develop business at We Build Pages. I've got my own company. I've spoken on link building here at it's Search Engine Strategies. I'd be interested in writing for Search Engine Watch. Would you be interested in having me write for you guys? And so I submitted a couple of posts, and they liked it, and there we go. That's how it happened.
And it's a good deal because I check those. You know, I'll admit, I'm not usually big on going to sites that have like multiple writers and all these other kind of things. But I read your posts, maybe because I know you, but also you write good stuff. But it's
thank you. I appreciate that.
You know what? I put it out there. I share the stuff on Google Plus when I see it. I share it most of the time on Twitter. I don't comment because, well, one, I'm weird with comment systems. And, you know, I hate systems that make me have to create an account just to leave a comment. You know, I'm not doing it. But yeah, two,
I think they use Discus over at Search Engine now.
I hate them with a passion. Just to say that, I absolutely hate them. And
well, that makes two of us.
Yeah, I've told them on Twitter that I hate them, so I don't care. But number two is that you get something that I don't get, and I know why you get it, which you get a lot of negative feedback. You get a lot of positive too, but you get a lot of fight back. And I know that's because when you get into this particular type of industry, it's a lot of people think that they're the only ones who are right, and they're going to beat down everything that someone else has to say. And I find that incredible because I'm one of those people who believes that there's very few things that are totally wrong. You know, there's room for a lot of stuff. There's multiple ways to get something done. And you handle it so well. I mean, you know, how did it feel the first time you saw some of those negative things coming in on some of your posts?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, obviously it hurts your feelings. It doesn't make you feel particularly good. But you have to approach it in a professional way. And I've actually written about this. How do you handle negative feedback, in social media? And there's a lot of ways to do it. But and there have been times that I have fallen into traps that people have set for me, and I've probably not reacted 100% calm, cool, and collected. But most of the time I do. And what you have to do is you have to remind yourself that, look, these people, in a lot of cases, they're baiting you or they're looking for a fight. So if you engage in a fight or take the bait, all you're doing is giving them the upper hand, and you don't want that. And in the end, you're the one that's going to look like the idiot. I don't like looking like an idiot. So I just give I give very measured response. A lot of times I'll write the real comment and then I'll delete it, and then I'll leave the comment that's going to go public.
And but basically you have proven one of the things that I've always said, which is if you're going to be afraid to take a position because someone else isn't going to like it, don't do it. I mean, just don't do it at all. Everyone isn't going to always agree with you. Now, what's funny is that I get a lot more agreement than I get disagreement. And it's probably because people are just being nice to me, or I don't know, because I think every once in a while I do take on something controversial. But I also let people know way up front, always. You can disagree with me however you want to, but if you go over the line, if it's decorum, if you're personal or you use a lot of bad language, I'm just going to delete it because it's my space. You can't really do it on Search Engine Watch, but you can do it on your own site. You can do it on your blog. You can do it on YouTube channel. I'll do it in a heartbeat. If like you said, we can have nice discourse, but if it goes too bad the other way, you know what? Gone.
Yeah. No, I mean, the comments I get are overwhelmingly positive. The one exception was that blog post that I showed you where I stirred the hornet's nest by talking about a forum over at Google, a Google Help forum, where they're consistently telling people that link building is against Google Webmaster Guidelines, that it's bad, don't do it, and that's absolutely wrong. And I can point to videos of Matt Cutts saying that link building isn't bad. He did an interview with Eric Engie over at Stone Temple, who are talking about link building not being bad. So, link building isn't inherently bad. Now, the way there are certain kinds of quote-unquote link building is bad, but link building isn't inherently bad, and that's the point that I was bringing out in that particular post, was that bad information was being given out in a Google product forum. I felt that Google had a responsibility to monitor those forums and to make sure that misinformation wasn't spread in those forums. And the moderators of that forum, not surprisingly, weren't real happy with my presentation of how I felt things were going over there and how they were being mishandled. And so they made it a point to come over to Search Engine Watch and voice their opinions.
And the thing is, you were absolutely right. It was the same thing that happened when Matt Cutts made a comment about guest posting, and all of a sudden the entire internet was saying, don't guest post, Google doesn't like it. And I wrote on my blog, that's not what they said. No. What they said is that they think it's not necessarily a viable strategy for link building, but they think it's still a good strategy for publicity and for practice of writing or whatever. They thought that was brilliant. So sometimes people go overboard with these things that they think Google said, and I guess that's sometimes just the world.
Yeah, I mean, Search Engine Watch is guest posting. I think I'm on the cusp of being made a contributor at Inc. So when I write for Inc., that'll be guest posting. So I'm certainly not I'm not running away from guest posting opportunities.
Yep, and you're doing well. You know what? For the most part, I like to write for myself. I got too darn many blogs. But I have started writing on LinkedIn, and it's amazing how you can get some kind of publicity and notoriety for writing in other places. So there is something about the guest posting kind of thing like that. Yes, someone else is going to get some of the benefit, but depending on what it is you're looking to do, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish that I had the number of eyeballs on my own blog that I get over at Search Engine Watch or even LinkedIn. I've done some posting over there, or Inc. magazine. But quite frankly, I don't get as many people over to my blog as Inc. gets to theirs or Search Engine Watch gets to theirs. So in order for me to get out in front of people, and you know how long it takes to write a good blog post. It takes a long time, and trying to do it in a niche where what is left to write about is something that I struggle with every single month. I have that monthly column. What can I write about that hasn't been completely overexposed and people are completely sick of? And it's a challenge every month.
Okay, you know what? I'm not typical in that regard. I'm a guy where if I have a topic hit me, I can pretty much write 1,000 words in 5 minutes. I have no problem whatsoever, and I've been doing it for years. However, I will say that that's a little bit different than what I do on LinkedIn, because even though I still come up with a topic and I can write my article quicker, because I know it's a totally different audience, I will actually go back through that and change certain phrases that I may have written the first time. And so now you're talking maybe 15 or 20 minutes instead of just a general 5 minutes, So you put a little bit more time into it. Like I said, I'm lucky in the fact that I can always come up with a topic, and once I have it, I can write. So everyone can't do that, and I do know there are people who take sometimes up to a week to write a post. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to write a post, sort of like we're doing now, kind of a free-form thing, write a post about business or management or sales. Those are somewhat easier to talk about, at least for me, or to write about. But when it comes to SEO, again, I'm writing for an audience of people that know what the hell they're talking about. You have to write at a certain, you're not always writing at the beginner level. And again, you don't want to put something out there that is just a bunch of crap. So it takes at least 2 or 3 days to put together a Search Engine Watch post.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm checking. I don't see any questions, so let's move on to the next thing, which is measurable SEO. So what made you decide to start that, and what exactly do you do for clients?
Well, one of the things that we were doing over at We Build Pages, we ended up there was a certain form of link building we were doing over there that we were transitioning out of at We Build Pages, but there was still a strong market for it, and it still worked pretty well. So we ended up forming another company called Blue Frog Advertising. So I was the chief operating officer at We Build Pages. But I was also a principal, one of the partners at Blue Frog Advertising. And Blue Frog Advertising ran for a couple of years, and then Jim Boykin, the other partner in Blue Frog, who owned We Build Pages, came to me one day and said, "You know what? I want to combine the two companies and shut down Blue Frog Advertising." And he was a majority shareholder. He held more than I did, so it was really his call. I was not on board with that decision. I wasn't on board with shutting down that company, and I told you that I wasn't on board, and I didn't share his vision for combining the companies into his new company, which is Internet Marketing Ninjas, which I presume is doing well, and he's doing well with that, but it wasn't for me. So, to his credit, I asked him to buy me out, and he did. And so he bought me out, and that was the beginning of Measurable SEO. And Measurable SEO basically is an organic search. We do organic search marketing. We specialize in organic search, Google penalty recovery, and link building. And so those are the primary areas of focus. When it comes to link building, that also encompasses content marketing, because really in 2015, content marketing and link building go hand in hand. You can't have one. Well, you can have one without the other. You can't have link building without content marketing, but you can have it the other way.
Mm-hmm. So when you're doing penalties, I'm going to go right to the penalties thing first before we go to the other side. Please tell me you're not one of those companies that sends out letters to all these other places, such as blogs and whatever, saying, "Could you please remove a link from your website because it's hurting my client's feelings?" Please tell me you're not one of those people.
Yeah, that's part of what we do. And look, as somebody owns a website, it pisses me off every time I'm on the receiving end of that, because I've got a website which dominates its particular niche, has a good robust forum, but somehow some spammers got in there, spammed out our forum, and so now I get these requests. "Oh, we didn't, the letter." And it's like, well, screw you guys. You came over, you spammed my forum. Now you want me to work at finding this stuff and removing it? Screw you. Okay, so that's why I'm on the receiving end of it. So when we're sending out those requests, you have to, first of all, anybody that has a manual penalty must send out those requests. It's part of the process, and Google wants to make sure that you're working every bit as hard at getting those links removed as you spent spamming to get those links. So unless Google sees that you have made an earnest attempt at going out there, and we fully document it. We do it all on a Google Drive. I use Amazon Web Services. I've got an application called Sendy, so it's like MailChimp or some of these other services where you can measure the open rate and all that stuff. We know exactly who's getting, we know exactly that the email is delivered, when it's open, and we present inside of the email an option to people. They can just click, yes, I'm going to remove the link. No, I'm not going to remove the link. Don't contact me again. So it's very precise, and so we're able to gather all that data. Just in case you're wondering, what's the average number of links that actually get removed in a link removal campaign? Somewhere between 5 and 15%, closer to 5 most of the time.
I was going to say, I doubt 15% would have to be on the high end. 5%? Yeah. And, I got some people...
5% manually removed.
Yeah. I had some people actually paid me to remove links. I said, okay, fine. I mean, I wasn't going to make it rich off of it. But it was just, because I got irritated because I would get the letter, and they would say, on your blog, and not tell me where it was. And like, wait, no.
That's the other thing. When we send it out, we give you the URL and exactly where the link is placed. So on this URL, you've got this link. Google's got us under penalty. We need your help. please remove it, and then they can check their action at the bottom. So, I mean, it's a process I call the drunken monkey process. All processes have to be drunken monkey proof at Measurable SEO. So, if a drunken monkey doesn't understand it, it's not our process, and that's not, that isn't to make fun of clients or employees or anything like that. But if a process here isn't drunken monkey proof, it gets fixed until it is.
Drunken monkey proof. That's funny. That's the second time I've heard about a monkey today. The other one I heard, a guy said, my head feels like a bunch of monkeys trying to play with marbles. So there you go with monkeys. So, so let's talk about SEO and search, because I did for a short time there. Goodness, I'm saying a short time. I just realized I had that company about 7 years before I decided I was just tired of dealing with it. The concept of SEO and making websites better or whatever. And I was pretty good at it for a while there. But then as Google kept changing things and as I started concentrating on the other parts of my business, I realized I could probably still do it if I was really dedicated, but it just got tiring. And so I didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, talk about, don't give away secrets, but talk about the general process of SEO as it is today.
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm going to give away the secret formula right now. So, the secret formula is you have to have a website with good architecture. And it needs to have good, it needs to be not broken. So well architected, not broken. The pages need to be optimized. You need to have content on there that supports the kind of traffic that you're trying to bring to the website. And then you have to have high trust, high authority links pointing to that site.
Now, before you go too far, could you explain, because there's going to be some folks who aren't going to understand this, architecture and broken links? Just to,
the easiest way to architect a site for the beginner is to go with an out-of-the-box CMS or content management system, and most people use WordPress. And WordPress, it has good architecture right out of the box, and you can buy themes that and framework that make it even better. Genesis or Thesis or a couple of popular frameworks to enhance the basic CMS. So basically it just means that when it comes to having all the pages set up and the categories set up properly and the products pages set up properly, basically just making sure that it all makes sense. And you try to keep it as flat as you can. So you don't want to have stuff 13 layers deep, or Google's not going to crawl that deep. They're never going to find it, and it's difficult for usability, and customers are never going to find it. So that's good website architecture. And just making sure stuff isn't broken. You don't have a lot of broken links. You don't have a lot of broken images. You don't have bad CSS within the code. You're not leaving title tags empty. You're not leaving descriptions empty. You know what your keyword targets are. You make sure the keywords are in the title tag, on the page, in the description. So those fall on the architecture and the optimization of the website.
Now, something else that people started saying that I went back and said, okay, you guys got that one wrong too, is that you shouldn't do anchor text anymore. To which I said, Google didn't say that. They didn't say that at all. What they said is that you had to
it's all a matter of percentages, and if it happens naturally, or if it would make sense to do it naturally. The problem is people are using anchor text in forum signatures. People are using anchor text as usernames and blog comments. So that's the kind of stuff that they're talking about. I can tell you that having a certain percentage of exact match anchor text links and variations is natural.
Which I would agree with you. I mean, it seems to make sense. Like on my blog, there's a lot. I mean, I've got almost 1,600 posts, so I tend to link back to something that I've written before if people want more depth. and also because I like to show off that I have all these other posts. And if the keyword phrase matches up with it, it's perfect, and I will link that. And that's, to me, that's an internal linking thing, which, by the way, is very strong, that a lot of people don't do. They would rather link out to some other source all the time instead of linking to their own stuff.
Well, yeah, no, interlinking is important, but you just touched on something else that's important too, and that's co-citation. And that is linking out to high trust and high authority websites. That makes a difference too. That helps position where your site fits in a particular neighborhood. So, you know, if you link out to other high trust, high authority sites, that brings you into the neighborhood.
Yeah, but you also have to check those often enough, because one of the lessons that I'm starting to learn is when I link to news sources, and, and like a year and a half later, that thing is totally gone, and now that's a broken link. It doesn't work anymore, and most of us don't go back and keep up with that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can use a tool like I think it's either SearchEDU or edusearch.com. It helps you find authority sites, and what it does is you'll put a keyword phrase in, and you can search for educational sites, you know, .edus or .gov sites. If you're working on a site over in the UK, .gov.uk you'd want to search for, you know, so or ACUK for universities.
So now, what about stuff like, and I thought two things here. One, which is, oh goodness, I had it and then I just, membership sites, thank you. Membership sites where, you know, your basic thing is you don't really want a lot of SEO because you don't really want those sites found in search. But also things like what I did for my business site. I wrote a newsletter for 10 years, a weekly, well, almost weekly, but whatever. For 10 years, I wrote that bad boy. And what I did is I created it as an HTML as well as just a regular send-out, and I put it on my website. So I said, if you want to read the article online, you can click to this if you don't want to just read it here. And I never SEO'd any of that stuff because I really didn't want it searchable. But I knew they would find it. You know, someone might find it off the cuff, but it wasn't going to be because I told them how to find it. I know that broke up the architecture.
If you really don't want it to be indexed, you can put a no index attribute on the page, or you can put no index in the robots text of the website, and tell Google that you don't want them crawling these particular pages.
Which I didn't do any of that. I've always hated messing with a robot. I did it once early, messed something up, said, okay, I'm staying out of robots.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful because, you know, a lot of people exclude the whole website if they mess up the robots text. But there are tools out there that allow you to check the robots text too. So, I mean, if you're doing the robots text, just make sure you check it or you run it by somebody else. Yeah,
but membership sites, in essence, you're not really SEOing it, or are you? I mean,
well, you are. I mean, I'm not. What kind of membership site are you thinking of?
There's people who create membership sites, and then they want to charge people to be able to go in and see the content on a membership site.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to create enough content about about the site itself. Let's say it's a finance blog, so you're going to have enough pages that are not behind the paywall to get crawled and to get ranked for particular phrases. So you're going to have to put out, ideally what you do is you want to put out, you know, I'm not saying Forex is what you're into, but, you know, a Forex tutorial. So it's a free Forex tutorial, and it explains how Forex works, what it is, you know, the surefire way to make money, you can't lose money doing this, or whatever it is. You know, you publish that, that is your link bait, that's your SEO, you know, that's your SEO for that site. Ideally, it's going to be useful, and people are going to find it useful, and they're going to link to it.
So what do you think is the biggest SEO myth that's out there?
Well, yeah, one of my favorites is that links aren't as important as they used to be. And which is incredibly stupid. Stop and think about this. Google has a whole team of quality raters that go out looking at websites, and they look at both the content and they look at the backlink profile. And if they find something fishy, what happens? They do a manual penalty. Google has an algorithm dedicated to one thing, right? Link quality. It's called Penguin. So if links weren't important, do you really think that Google would invest those resources in manual penalties and an algorithm just to route out bad links? Hell no. In fact, links, good links, are more valuable today than when I first started link building nearly 10 years ago.
That's a good one. That is a good one. And I've read that too.
I probably wrote it.
No, I mean the people who are saying that link building is bad.
Oh,
that stuff. You still read that stuff all the time. You know, and I'll tell you the truth. I've never been big on link building. For me, it's not really my style.
I'll tell you what. The reason that people love promoting that is because link building is hard. A lot of SEOs are lazy. And, you know, if I can convince people that they should pay me to do SEO without building links, that just made my job a whole lot easier. You know what? Every client we have has some form of link building going on. Every one.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't big on it. I was bigger on the content thing. You know, that was easier for me. I could write the content.
Yeah, and content is important, but you know what? Millions, if not billions, of pages of great content, right? Google, great content. Millions, if not billions, of pages are produced and published every day on the web that will never be seen by human eyes.
Good point. That's why I had to get out of the business. I just didn't want to do it. Because you know me. We've talked about this. There's stuff that if I don't like it, then I'm not doing it for anyone else, and that's just me. And I didn't like all the contacts for the link building from people I didn't know. You know, will you link back with me? I'm like, who are you? I don't have a reason. You know, I don't endorse people I don't know. I figure my credibility is on the line. So, like, you know, I can endorse you because I know you and I know the kind of work you do. But, you know, John Smith from Guadalajara, because it's the only thing I can think of at the time, you know, contacting me. It's like, I don't know you. I'm not doing it.
I don't understand that when I get some of these LinkedIn requests, people who want to, you know, connect with me. And it's somebody that hasn't even bothered putting their picture up or spend 2 minutes on their profile. Why the hell would I want to connect with you when you're not even taking LinkedIn seriously?
Yeah, I've been sending those people to spam because those just look like spam accounts. They're not even putting a picture up. But
and a lot of people spam LinkedIn, creating fake profiles.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't get it. But I had a guy connect with me a couple days ago, and the first thing he did is he sends me a message asking me if I will endorse him on LinkedIn. I'm thinking, dude, I just met you a couple of hours ago. Your page looks fine, and you want me to endorse you? So I unconnected.
If somebody looks good, and I may not remember meeting them, but I think maybe I know them because we have so many connections in common, you know, occasionally I'll approve those. And if I get some sort of a hit up for some sort of business, that gets deleted instantly. The next click is back over to LinkedIn to get rid of that person.
And I was wondering about that because I had a business send me a connection. It's the first time it ever happened. I said, well, what? How do I connect with a business I've never heard of? And it was a healthcare business. And I thought about it for a couple of days, and I said, no. I'm looking to connect with people. If it had been a guy or a woman, and that was their company, different story. But to connect with the company, it just seemed weird.
Sure.
So, we're in our final minutes. We got no questions, so no one got in the way.
Well, that sounds good. I was hoping we'd have a few questions.
Well, I didn't expect that we would. You want to know the truth? I really didn't expect that we would. The only time I've ever actually gotten questions is one day when I basically sat here for an hour and talked about blogging and took questions during that one. And that was interesting. I might do that again. But on that particular day, I didn't get any questions. So, you know, there you go. That's okay. We're going to have this out here so people can come back and check on us way more often. So this is the final question before we close with how I usually like to close. So the final question, if you've got some folks who really have no idea about what they should do to improve their search ranking, and they don't have the time that you have because this is your business, what 3 things, yes, I'm putting in it, 3 things would you recommend they at least consider doing?
Well, I wrote a blog post. My latest post on Search Engine Watch was about the best free training materials for online SEO courses. And the very first piece of material that I recommend is the Google Guide to SEO. So I guess the first thing would be to read the guide. The second thing would be to try to implement some of the information that you learn in the guide, and then the last thing would be monitor the results.
That was a little quicker and easier than I expected, but that works out well. So, and just so everyone knows, all the links to be able to reach Chuck, see some of his articles or whatever, he's going to give me. I'm going to put them down here later on so you can go check those things out. Mr. Price.
Yes, sir.
One of my best friends ever for 40 years.
And mutually here, my friend.
Yes.
Old-time friends, no doubt.
Yeah, good guy who used to let me beat him in tennis all the time.
There you go.
In the final seconds here, tell everybody about you, about your business, how they can reach you. Pitch.
Yeah. So again, if you don't have time to do SEO yourself, if you're looking to increase organic rankings and traffic, if you find yourself in trouble with a Google penalty, these are the things that we do well. These are the things that we specialize in. We have a 100% recovery rate in getting people sprung from Google manual penalties. So if you find yourself in that situation and you'd like some help, or if you want to just drop me an email, chuck@measurableseo.com. If you have any thoughts or questions, please do so.
And there we go. By the way, what kind of snow did you guys get?
We probably got about 8 inches.
Man, we got 2.5. I feel cheated. We couldn't even get the guy to come shovel the driveway with that.
That's right. Well, probably a 3-inch threshold, right?
It is. Exactly.
The problem is my snow blower, the starter went on it, so I pulled the starter out, ordered a gear off Amazon, put the gear on, reinstalled it, and it didn't work. Took it down to True Value, talked to the people down there. Yeah, that gear, and the gear was shorter, but it was supposed to be the right gear. Yep, they ordered me another gear, the exact same gear I got off Amazon. So he reordered it again, and he said, yeah, I have gotten the longer gears for people. He said, but the last time it took me 5 months.
Oh, my.
So it does have a manual start. I couldn't get that thing started. So you've seen my driveway. I shoveled that whole driveway, 8 inches of snow, that whole driveway last night.
Yeah, that's why I pay someone to do it now.
Yeah. Well, with a snowblower, it's not a huge deal, but unfortunately, the snow is very fluffy. So it wasn't hard. It was just time-consuming.
Well, I always hated the snow blowing back in my face because it didn't matter what way I turned it. It was always blowing in my face. Let someone else do it.
Yeah.
So, folks, there you go. This is Chuck Price. I'm Mitch Mitchell. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you watch it later. Hope you share it with all your friends. And we will see you, well, at least I will. I will see you at another time. Thanks for watching.
All right. Be good.